Hinanap ng Louisiana State Police ang nawawalang 10 anyos na babae sa isang gubat sa Louisiana.
Pero paano nga ba muna napunta ang bata sa gubat? May malalim pa bang dahilan kung bakit nagpunta nga ang bata sa nasabing kagubatan? Aalamin po natin yan mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores, ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Miyerkules ng gabi.
Retired former PNP Chief General Benjamin Acorda ay tinanggiya ang koneksyon nito sa pagtakas ni Alice Co.
Senador Juan Miguel Zubiri at Senador Alan Peter Cayetano nagbangayan sa Senate session kagabi.
China nagpalipad ng intercontinental ballistic missile patungo sa Pacific Ocean.
United Nations General Assembly sa New York tinalakay ang kaguluhan sa Gaza.
At 3 patay sa Mexico sa paglandfall ng Hurricane John. Mariing itinanggi ni former PNP Chief Retired General Benjamin Acorda Jr. na may kinalaman ito sa pagtakas ni former Banban Mayor Alice Co.
Iginiit din ng dating police chief na hindi rin siya tumatanggap ng pera mula sa mga pogo.
Bilang Pilipino, I think nagawa ko lahat kung ano dapat kong gawin bilang Pilipino, lalo-lalo na sa terms of national security. And bilang police din, ginampanan ko rin yung lahat ng dapat kong gawin as alagad ng batas without fear or favor.
Kagabi sa naging pagdinig sa Senado ay lumantad ang isang larawan na kasama ni Acorda ang kapatid ni Alice Co na si Wesley at umano'y business partner nito na si Sual Pangasinan Mayor Dong Kalugay. Inilabas ito ni Senadora Risa Ontiveros kasama ang larawang kasama ng dating hepe ng pulisya, ang hinihinalang pogo operator na si Tony Yang at iba pang Chinese businessmen na nakuha noong siya pa ang regional director sa Cagayan de Oro. Giit ni Acorda noong siya pa ang namumuno sa PNP ay isinasagawa ng operasyon laban sa iligal na pogo sa Bamban, Tarlac. Bagay na sinasabi ng dating PNP chief na isang patunay na hindi niya pinoprotektahan ang pogo. Nagpaliwanag naman si Acorda kung bakit piling mga opisyal lang ang nasabihan tungkol sa raid sa Tarlac kung saan hindi kasama ang dating hepe ng CIDG na si Major General Romeo Karamat.
Hindi naman sa wala tayong tiwala kay General Karamat, pero during that time nakabakasyon siya. Yan sa akin naman, need to know na yan. Kung hindi rin lang kailangan malaman pa. At saka, may tinatawag tayong time and target, meaning sabihan lang yung mga taong concerned na dapat pagsabihan pag andyan na yung operation. And that is what we did. That is how serious we are pagdating sa bagay-bagay na yan.
Nakahanda raw si Acorda na humarap sa investigasyon sa Senado dahil may pagkakataon siyang magpaliwanag at ipagtanggol ang kanyang sarili.
Samantala, pinag-aaralan ng Department of Justice o DOJ na kasuhan ang negosyanteng si Tony Yang na napag-alamang isa palang Chinese national. Nakaharap sa paglabag sa immigration law si Yang na siyang batayan ng pag-aresto sa kanya ng Immigration Bureau. Sinabi ni Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla na hindi agarang maipade-deport si Yang. Anya, kailangan munang harapin ng negosyante ang mga kasong kriminal na inihain laban sa kanya hinggil sa illegal na pogo operations sa Pilipinas.
The ties that bound them to these contacts, kailangan malaman natin yan kasi it's actually a national security problem. We cannot treat this as just an isolated case. This is something that's being done to our system of identification as a people. Kailangan dito, ma-final ang kaso para we can get to the bottom of it. Ang pinaka-convenient talaga i-deport if drop lahat ng cases. Kaya lang, what will it solve? It will not solve anything at all. Kailangan talaga malaman natin kung hanggang saan yan. Tsaka maparusahan talaga.
Inaasahang magsasampa rin ng kaso ang ibang ahensya ng gobyerno katulad ng Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, National Bureau of Immigration o Investigation at Anti-Money Laundering Council. Bukod pa kasi sa pagkakasangkot na negosyante sa Pogo, lumabas na nasabing pagharap niyang sa Senado kagabi na nameke rin siya ng ilang dokumento at gumamit pa ng ibang alias para makapagnegosyo sa Pilipinas.
Nagkainitan sina Senador Juan Miguel Zubiri at Alan Peter Cayetano sa sesyon ng Senado kagabi. Tumaas ang tensyon sa Senate Session Hall na magtalo ang dalawang senador sa isang resolusyon na nananawagan na magamit ng mga residente ng Embo Barangay sa Taguig ang kanilang karapatang bumoto para sa kanilang Congressional representative sa 2025 midterm elections. Kinuwestiyon ni Zubiri kung bakit naisingit ang diskusyon ng naturang resolusyon dahil hindi ito kasama sa agenda. Hindi rin maipaliwanag ni Cayetano sa mga senador kung ano ang nilalaman ng 5 pahinang resolusyon at ipapasa pa kung kailan gabi na. Pero sinabi ni Cayetano na simpleng resolusyon lang ito at hindi na kailangang pagdebatihan pa. Dito, pansamantalang pinasuspinde ni Zubiri ang sesyon at nawala ang live video feed. Pero nakakuha ng video ng mga nasa plenaryo ang mainit na palitan ng salita ng dalawa kung saan ay nagkaroon pa ng hamunan. Umawat agad sa dalawang tumatayong majority leader kagabi na si Senador J.V. Ejercito. Napatakbo rin sa plenaryo si Senate Sergeant at Arms Roberto Ancan habang si Senador Pia Cayetano ang humila, umawat at yumakap sa kanyang kapatid. Pagkatapos ng ilang masinsinang pag-uusap, humingi ng tawad sa isa't isa ang dalawang mambabatas at pinagtibay rin ang naturang resolusyon. Sinabi naman ni Senate President Francis Escudero na siyang presiding officer at nakasaksi rin sa nangyari kagabi, hindi anya ito ang unang pagkakataon na nagkaroon ng ganitong mainitang pagtatalo sa mga mambabatas.
Pinag-iisipan na ng Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board o LTFRB na isama ang mga miyembro ng transport groups na Piston at Manibela sa Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program o PUVMP. Kasunod dito ng 2 araw na transport strike ng 2 grupo nitong Lunes at Martes. Matatandaang natapos ang consolidation phase ng PUVMP noong April 30 kung kailan lahat ng hindi nakiisa sa pagpaparehistro ay maituturing ng kolorum. Subalit, sinabi naman ni LTFRB Chairperson Chofilo Guadis III, ang mga jeepney operators na hindi pa nagpapakonsolidate ay pwede na lamang sumali sa mga nabuong kooperatiba o kaya naman ay korporasyon. Umarangkada ang tigil pasada ng Piston at Manibela para isulong ang 5 taong renewal ng mga prangkisa ng lahat ng mga PUV operators.
Pinatamaan ni Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. ang China dahil sa mga paratang nitong sinusubukan ng Pilipinas na magsimula ng isang arms race dahil ito sa pag-host ng bansa sa US Typhoon o Mid-Range Capability Missile System. Iginiit ni Secretary Chodoro na bago akusahan ng Beijing ang Manila at Estados Unidos sa pagpapatibay nito ng seguridad sa West Philippine Sea, ay dapat munang harapin ng China ang sarili nitong nuclear arsenal. Dagdag pa niya, dapat umalis ang China sa katubigan natin bago ito magpalabas ng ganitong klaseng pahayag. Iginiit rin ni Chodoro na ang Pilipinas ay nagpapalakas lamang ng mga kakayahang pangdepensa at hindi nakikilahok sa isang arms race. Dumating ang US Typhoon o Mid-Range Capability Missile System sa bansa noong Abril 2024 bilang bahagi ng isang bilateral Army-to-Army exercise. Ayon sa mga otoridad, pinalawig ang pananatili ng missile system upang masanay ang puwersa ng Pilipino sakaling bumili ang bansa ng katulad na sistema.
Nais ni Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief General Romeo Browner Jr. na manatili habang buhay ang Typhoon Mid-Range Missile System ng Estados Unidos sa Pilipinas. Dinala ng US Army ang kanyang Typhoon Missile System sa Pilipinas noong buwan ng Abril. Ang weapon system na ito ng US Army ay may kakayahang maglunsad ng missiles kagaya ng SM-6 missiles at Tomahawk sa layong higit sa 1,600 kilometers. Matatandaang kinondena ng China ang pagkakaroon ng Pilipinas ng isang intermediate range missile system ng Estados Unidos. Inakusahan din ito ang Estados Unidos sa nagpapasimula ng arms race sa West Philippine Sea. Subalit, itinanggi ni Browner ang aligasyon ng China at sinabing ang pagkakaroon ng missile system ng Washington sa Pilipinas ay naglalayong mapalakas ang kakayanan ng Pilipinas sa pagdepensa. Ayon sa media sources, ay wala ring plano ang Estados Unidos na bawiin ang kanilang Typhoon missile system sa Pilipinas kahit na nagrereklamo ang China. Naniniwala tuloy ang ilang political analysts na posibleng gamitin ang naturang US weapon system sa Asia-Pacific region kung sakaling magkaroon nga ng isang regional conflict.
Susunod, China nagsagawa ng bihirang test launch ng isang intercontinental ballistic missile.
Japan itinaboy ang mga fighter jets ng Russia na nakapasok sa kanilang airspace.
At United Kingdom nagpadala ng mga sundalo sa Cyprus bilang paghahanda sa paglaganap ng gulo sa Lebanon. Detalye ng mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is...
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ilalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Iniulat ng China na matagumpay itong nagpalipad ng isang intercontinental ballistic missile o ICBM papunta sa Pacific Ocean ngayong Miyerkules. Ang public test launch ay bihirang gawin ng China, lalo na at ito ay isang sandatang kayang magdala ng mga nuclear warheads.
9月25日8时44分，中国人民解放军火箭军向太平洋相关公海海域成功发射一发携载训练模拟弹头的洲际弹道导弹。
Walang detalye ang ibinigay ukol sa ruta ng missile o ang eksaktong lokasyon ng pagbagsak nito. Ayon sa Chinese Defense Ministry, ang test launch ay bahagi ng taunang regular na pagsasanay ng mga bansa o ng bansa at hindi ito nakatuon sa anumang bansa o target. Ang paglulunsad na ito ay kasabay rin ng isinagawang joint naval exercises ng China at Russia sa mga karagatang malapit sa Japan.
Gumamit ng flares ang mga fighter jet ng Japan para itaboy palayo ang mga fighter jet ng Russia na nakapasok sa kanilang airspace. Sinabi ni Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara na nakapasok sa kanilang himpapawid sa taas ng Rebun Island ang Russian Tu-38 plane. Makailang minuto ay lumipat din ang nasabing eroplano ng Russia sa isla ng Hokkaido. Naganap ang insidente ilang araw matapos nakita ang mga barko ng Russia at China sa karagatang sakop ng Japan. Dagdag pa ni Kihara na lubos na nakababahala ang ginawang ito ng Russia at kanilang mariing kinundina. Ang paggamit anya nila ng flares ay legal bilang tugon sa airspace violation at kanila umano itong gagamitin ng walang pangangailangan. Sa ibang parte naman ng mundo, namataan ng North American Aerospace Defense Command o NORAD ang 4 na military aircraft ng Russia malapit sa Alaska. Naganap ang insidente halos 2 linggo nang dagdagan ng Estados Unidos ang mga sundalo sa lugar bilang force protection operation dahil sa ginagawang military exercises ng Russia at China sa lugar. Ayon pa sa NORAD, nananatili ang eroplano ng Russia sa International Airspace sa Air Defense Identification Zone ng Alaska pero hindi pumasok sa American o Canadian sovereign airspace. Hindi naman nakita ng NORAD na banta ang Russian military plane dahil sa regular na nila itong namamataan sa lugar.
Iniulat ng Ukraine nitong Miyerkules na napabagsak nila ang 28 sa 32 drones at 4 sa 8 missiles sa isang overnight attack ng Russia. Sinabi ng Ukrainian Air Force na nagpakawala ang Moscow ng 4 na missiles sa timog na rehiyon ng Odessa. Isa sa mga missiles ay nagdulot ng sunog at sumira pa sa 2 truck. Ayon kay Kyiv Regional Governor Ruslan Kravchenko, wala namang nasirang kritikal o residential na infrastruktura mula sa drone attacks sa nasabing rehiyon. Subalit, nasira ang isang hangar sa mga pag-atake sa hilagang silang rehiyon ng Kharkiv. Wala rin naiulat na nasawi mula sa mga drone o missiles na tumama sa loob ng teritoryo ng Ukraine.
Nanawagan si South African President Cyril Ramaphosa na magkaroon ng anyay mahahalagang pagbabago sa istruktura ng pangdaigdigang pamumuno. Myla Simbulan para sa balita.
Kasama sa nais mabago ni South African President Cyril Ramaphosa ang pamumuno ng UN Security Council. Anya hindi makatarungan, hindi patas at hindi sustainable na ipagkatiwala ang kaligtasan ng mundo sa iilan at piling mga bansa. Binigyan diin ni Ramaphosa ang kahalagahan ng aksyong multilateral at ng konkretong pangako sa pagsusulong ng kapayapaan at pag-unlad sa Africa at sa mundo.
That Pact for the Future is a great opportunity to change and also to reinvigorate the multilateral system so that it is fit for purpose to address the challenges that the world faces. It is an opportunity also to make good on the promises to reform the global governance architecture, including the international finance institutions and the United Nations Security Council, placing the fate of the world's security in the hands of a select few when it is the vast majority of the peoples of the world who bear the brunt of the various threats is unjust, unfair, and unsustainable.
Nagbabala si Ramaphosa na ang hindi pagkilos ay pagtataksil sa susunod na henerasyon.
Our failure will in the end be a betrayal for future generations. And I do believe that we dare not fail. Action is what is required now.
Noong linggo, nag-adopt si UN Chief Guterres ng kasunduan para sa hinaharap. Inilarawan niya ang landmark agreement na ito na hakbang tungo sa mas epektibo, inklusibo at mas malawak na multilateralismo. Maya Simbulan para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sa ikalawang araw ng UN Summit sa New York, sinabi ni Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni na suportado ng Italy ang United Nations at ang mga reforma nito. Narito po si Yolanda Espiras para sa detalye ng balita.
Sa Summit of the Future ng UN, nagpahayag ng suporta si Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni sa United Nations at sa mga reforma nito. Ayon kay Meloni, namumuhay ang mundo sa panahon ng krisis kung saan natatakpan ang mga oportunidad. Anya, walang estado ang kayang humarap sa krisis mag-isa kung kaya't nakasuporta anya ang Italy sa multilateralismo at ang kinatawan nito, ang United Nations.
Chiaramente ogni organizzazione è efficace se le sue regole sono regole giuste e condivise. Per questo noi siamo convinti che qualsiasi revisione della governance delle Nazioni Unite, particolarmente per quello che riguarda il Consiglio di sicurezza, non possa prescindere dai principi di eguaglianza, democraticità, rappresentatività. La riforma ha un senso se viene fatta per tutti e non solamente per alcuni. Non ci interessa creare nuove gerarchie e non crediamo che esistano nazioni di serie A e nazioni di serie B. Esistono le nazioni, con le loro storie, con le loro peculiarità e con i loro cittadini che hanno tutti gli stessi diritti, perché gli individui nascono tutti liberi e uguali.
Noong linggo, inadopt ng UN Chief ang Pact of the Future. Inilarawan niya itong landmark agreement, isang hakbang ng pagbabago tungo sa mas epektibo, inklusibo at malawak na multilateralismo. Ang pact ay inadopt ng walang butuhang naganap sa pagsisimula ng 2 araw na summit. Ito ay nabuo matapos ang 9 na buwang negosasyon. Ang summit ay bago magsimula ang General Assembly General Debate sa Martes, 24 ng Setyembre. Yolanda Aspiras para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Hindi napigilang kondenahin ni United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres ang mga gobyernong tila anya nag-aakalang lusot sila sa prosekusyon kaugnay ng mga labanang nagaganap sa pagitan ng iba't ibang mga bansa. Ilan sa mga nabanggit ni Guterres ay ang mga giyera sa Ukraine, Gaza at Sudan. Si Ana Kui para sa balita.
Sa pasimula ng United Nations General Assembly sa New York, pinatamaan ni Secretary General Antonio Guterres ang dumaraming mga pamahalaan at ibang grupo na nag-aakalang mayroon silang get-out-of-jail-free card. Sa kanyang talumpati, binigyan diin ni Guterres ang mga naggaganap na labanan sa Ukraine, Gaza Strip at Sudan.
The level of impunity in the world is politically indefensible and morally intolerable. Today, a growing number of governments and others feel entitled to get out of jail free card. They can trample international law. They can violate the United Nations Charter. They can turn a blind eye to international human rights conventions or the decisions of international courts. They can thumb their nose at international humanitarian law. They can invade another country, lay waste to whole societies, or utterly disregard the welfare of their own people. And nothing will happen.
Sa gitna ng giyera ng Israel at Hamas na halos mag-iisang taon na, may madamdaming pakiusap si Guterres sa member states ng UN.
Gaza is a non-stop nightmare that threatens to take the entire region with it. Look no further than Lebanon. We should all be alarmed by the escalation. Lebanon is at the brink. The people of Lebanon, the people of Israel, and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
Noong Pebrero 2022, pinasok ng Russia ang Ukraine at lalong lumala ang labanan sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa nang okupahin ng Kyiv noon 6 ng Agosto ang lupa sa Kursk region ng Russia. Sa kabilang banda, pinatindi naman ng Russia ang drone at missile attacks nito laban sa Ukraine. Pinaalala ni Guterres kung sino talaga ang nagdurusa sa mga labanang ito.
Civilians are paying the price in rising death tolls and shattered lives and communities. It is time for a just peace based on the UN Charter, on international law, and on UN resolutions.
Tungkol naman sa Sudan, binanggit ni Guterres ang madugong agawan ng kapangyarihan sa pagitan ng Sudanese Army at ng Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Ang labanan namang ito ay nagsimula noong kalagitnaan ng Abril 2023 bago ang planong transisyon para sa pamahalaang sibilyan.
In Sudan, a brutal power struggle has unleashed horrific violence, including widespread rape and sexual assaults. A humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding as famine spreads. Yet outside powers continue to interfere with no unified approach to finding peace.
Kung lalagumin, laman ng talumpati ni Guterres ang pagiging unsustainable ng lagay ng mundo ngayon.
I stand before you in this whirlwind, convinced of two overriding truths. First, the state of our world is unsustainable. We can't go on like this. And second, the challenges we face are solvable. But that requires us to make sure the mechanisms of international problem solving actually solve problems.
Subalit sinabi nitong may solusyon ang mga pagsubok na pinagdaraanan ng mga bansa. Ana Cui para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nagbabala naman si King Abdullah II ng Jordan na humaharap ang United Nations sa makabagong krisis na nagbabanta sa pamumuno ng ahensya. May Fanway Zaragoza para sa balita.
Sa UN General Assembly, hinikayat ni Jordanian King Abdullah II ang global community na aksyonan ang gumuguhong sitwasyon sa Gaza. Sinabi ng hari na nababahala ito sa bantang pagguho ng pambuong mundong tiwala sa organisasyon.
I cannot recall a time of greater peril than this. Our United Nations is facing a crisis that strikes at its very legitimacy and threatens a collapse of global trust and moral authority. The UN is under attack, literally and figuratively.
Dagdag ni King Abdullah, ang UN ay inaatake ngayon, literal at figuratibo.
For nearly a year, the sky blue flag flying over UN shelters and schools in Gaza has been powerless to protect innocent civilians from Israeli military bombardment. UN aid trucks sit motionless just miles away from starving Palestinians. Humanitarian workers who proudly wear the emblem of this institution are disparaged and targeted. And the rulings of the UN's International Court of Justice are defied, its opinions disregarded. So it's no surprise that both inside and outside this hall, trust in UN's cornerstone principles and ideals is crumbling.
Nananawagan din ang hari para sa pagpapatayo ng International Humanitarian Gateway para sa Gaza. Hinimok nito ang mga bansa na magkaisa para sa isang malakihang relief effort upang magdala ng tulong sa teritoryo.
I call on all countries to join Jordan in enforcing an international Gaza humanitarian gateway, a massive relief effort to deliver food, clean water, medicine, and other vital supplies to those in desperate need. Because humanitarian aid should never be a tool of war.
May Fanway Zaragoza para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagsalita na para sa huling pagkakataon si Pangulong Joe Biden ng Estados Unidos sa harap ng United Nations General Assembly. Sa kanyang talumpati, sinabi ni Biden na demokrasya ang pinakamahalaga para sa mga mamamayan. Nanawagan din siya ng isang ganap na kapayapaan para sa Middle East. Sinabi ni Pangulong Biden sa harap ng mga lider ng maraming bansa na mas mahalaga ang mga mamamayan kaysa sa pagpapanatili sa pwesto.
Even as we navigate so much change, one thing must not change. We must never forget who we're here to represent. We, the people. These are the first words of our Constitution, the very idea of America. They inspired the opening words of the UN Charter. I made the preservation of democracy the central cause of my presidency. This summer, I faced a decision whether to seek a second term as president. It was a difficult decision. Being president has been the honor of my life. There's so much more I want to get done. As much as I love the job, I love my country more. I decided after 50 years of public service, it's time for a new generation of leadership to take my nation forward. My fellow leaders, let us never forget some things are more important than staying in power. It's your people. It's your people that matter the most. Never forget, we are here to serve the people, not the other way around. Because the future will be won by those who unleash the full potential of their people, to breathe free, to think freely, to innovate, to educate, to live and love openly without fear. That's the soul of democracy. It does not belong to any one country.
Samantala, umaasa pa rin si Biden na mawawakasan na ang gyera sa Middle East. Isinalaysay nito kung paano nagsimula ang laban ng Hamas at Israel at binanggit ang nakabingbing ceasefire deal at hostage release plan. Nanawagan din siya sa Hamas at sa Israel na umaksyon na para sa ikatatahimik ng Middle East.
We're also working to bring greater measure of peace and stability to the Middle East. The world must not flinch from the horrors of October 7th. Any country would have the right and responsibility to ensure that such an attack can never happen again. Thousands of armed Hamas terrorists invaded a sovereign state, slaughtering and massacring more than 1,200 people, including 46 Americans, in their homes and at a music festival. Despicable acts of sexual violence, 250 innocents taken hostage. I've met with the families of those hostages. I've grieved with them. They're going through hell. Innocent civilians in Gaza are also going through hell. Thousands and thousands killed, including aid workers. Too many families dislocated, crowding into tents, facing a dire humanitarian situation. They did not ask for this war that Hamas started. I put forward with Qatar and Egypt a ceasefire and hostage deal. It's been endorsed by the UN Security Council. Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip, ease the suffering in Gaza, and end this war.
Sa kaugnay na balita, naging pangunahing paksa sa United Nations General Assembly sa New York ang patuloy na nagaganap na kaguluhan sa Gaza.
The recent attack launched in Beirut is nothing but a ploy to expand this war theater, which will be catastrophic for this peace-loving world. And I think we must all condemn this act on the part of Israelis with fullest force, because this is nothing but to expand this war beyond Middle East, which will be very, very serious for this world and have grave consequences.
Banggit pa ni Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif na dapat ang mundo ay hindi manatiling nakaupo lamang at sa halip ay gumawa ng paraan para maresolba ang kaguluhan. Dagdag pa nito na ito ang pagkakataon para magkaisa ang UN member countries at pigilan ang kaguluhan. Pinunan naman ni Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ang sistema ngayon ng UN dahil sa hindi agad nito gumagalaw para mapigilan ang pagdami ng mga batang nasasawi sa Gaza. Sa kabila ng panghihikayat nito sa mga lider ng mga bansa na pigilan ng Israel, ikinagulat naman ang lahat nung ikumpara ni Erdogan si Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu kay Hitler sa pagsulong nito ng mga kaguluhan.
Bundan 70 sene önce nasıl Hitler insanlığın ittifakıyla durdurulmuşsa, Netanyahu ve cinayet şebekesi de insanlığın ittifakıyla durdurulmalıdır.
Sa panig naman ni US President Joe Biden na marapat na magkaroon ng ceasefire sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. Sa huling pagkakataon siya ay haharap sa pulong bilang Pangulo ng Estados Unidos. Iginiit nito na ngayon ang tamang panahon para isapinal ang termino ng kasunduan at matigil na ang lumalalang krisis sa Gaza.
I know many look at the world today and see difficulties. and react with despair. But I do not. I won't. As leaders, we don't have the luxury. I recognize the challenges from Ukraine to Gaza to Sudan and beyond. War, hunger, terrorism, brutality, record displacement of people, a climate crisis, democracy at risk, strains within our societies, the promise of artificial intelligence and its significant risk. The list goes on. But maybe because all I've seen and all we have done together over the decades, I have hope. I know there is a way forward. Since October 7, we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7 attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve.
Kasalukuyang nagde-deploy ng mga tropa ang United Kingdom patungo sa Cyprus upang tulungan ang mga British nationals na lumikas mula Lebanon. Binalaan ni British Prime Minister Keir Starmer na ang tumitinding labanan sa pagitan ng Israel at Hezbollah ay nagtutulak sa rehiyon sa bingit na mas malalim na digmaan. Kaya upang matiyak ang kaligtasan ng kanilang mga mamamayan, nagpapadala ang UK ng 700 tropa sa Cyprus bilang dagdag sa presensya ng bansa sa lugar. Binigyan diin naman ni British Defense Secretary John Healey na naghahanda lamang ang bansa upang masigurong handa ang lahat ng kakailanganing suporta para sa kanilang mga mamamayan sakali mang lumala nga ang sitwasyon doon. Kamakailang binago ng Israel ang focus nito mula Gaza patungo sa katimugang bahagi ng Lebanon kung saan nagpaputok ng mga rockets ang Hezbollah patungo sa Israel bilang suporta sa Hamas.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages, the hostages, and a recommitment to the two-state solution. A recognized Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel.
Kasama sa mga ipinangako ni U.S. Republican Presidential Candidate Donald Trump ang serye ng mga insentibo upang maengganyo mga foreign companies na magnegosyo sa Estados Unidos. Ito ay sakaling manalo siya sa darating na November election. Narito ang report ni Kathleen Gregorio.
Sa kanyang talumpati sa Georgia, kasama sa mga ipinangako ni dating Pangulong Donald Trump na magtayo ng special manufacturing zone sa federal lands. Sinabi ng Republican presidential candidate na ang mga insentibo ay iaalok lamang sa mga kumpanyang ililipat ang paggawan sa US at magbibigay ng trabaho sa mga taga-Amerika. Kasama sa mga insentibo ang mababang buwis at kaunting regulasyon.
As your president, here is the deal that I will be offering to every major company and manufacturer on earth. I will give you the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burden, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet, but only if you make your product here in America. It all goes away if you don't make your product here.
Babala ni Trump sa mga kumpanyang hindi sa US gagawin ang mga produkto ang pagpapataw ng mabigat na taripa sakaling ipasok nila ang mga produkto sa bansa. Hindi malinaw kung aling federal lands ang iaalok sa foreign companies o kung ano ang magiging usapan para pagganahin ito. Kung ang mga lupang ito ay manatiling federal ngunit gagamitin ng foreign companies, sa teorya, magiging exempt sa property tax ang mga ito. Samantala, pinatamaan ni Trump ang kalaban nitong si Vice President Kamala Harris na naka-schedule bumisita sa US-Mexico border sa Biyernes. Inakusahan ni Trump si Harris na ang pag-aantay na matagal upang ayusin ang krisis sa border.
after almost 4 years, border czar Kamala Harris has decided for political reasons that it's time for her to go to the border. Finally, she's gone to the border 4 years. What a disgrace that is, that she waited so long, allowing millions and millions of people to enter our country from prisons and jails, mental institutions and insane asylums.
Jane Kathleen Gregorio sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Isang U.S. Congressional Committee ang nagrekomenda na si Secretary of State Anthony Blinken ay makatulan ng contempt of Congress dahil sa kabiguan nitong sumunod sa isang subpoena. Ang subpoena na tinutukoy nila ay para sa paghingi ng impormasyon tungkol sa 2021 withdrawal ng U.S. military mula sa Afghanistan. Binoto ng House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee ng 26 laban sa 25 na pabor sa pagpasya na si Blinken ay may contempt sa isang hearing noong Martes. Ipinaliwanag naman ni Secretary Blinken na nasa New York para sa UN General Assembly na sinubukan niyang makipagkompromiso sa mga petsa kung kailan siya magiging available para sa isang hearing. Subalit, sinabi ni Republican Representative Michael McCall na tinanggihan ni Blinken na dumalo sa alinman sa mga inalok nilang mga petsa kaya nauwi ito sa aksyon laban sa kanya. Itinanggi rin ni McCall na ginawa niya ito para sa mga politikal na kadahilanan lamang. Susunod, Hurricane John tumama na sa Mexico.
State of California kinasuhan ng ExxonMobil dahil sa polusyong dulot nito.
At the retail store na Tesco, nilabas ang isang robot security guard. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is
putukan at walang tigil na pagsabog ang nangyayari sa Middle East sa kasalukuyan. Mga pagyanig mula sa mga pagsabog ang nararamdaman mula sa Lebanon at gantihan ng Hezbollah at Israel. Dulot nito ay ang pagkasawi ng maraming bilang ng mga inosenteng sibilyan na naiipit sa hidwaan at mga pag-atake. Tila ayaw magpatalo ng mga pinuno ng magkabilang panig sa kanilang mga ipinaglalaban sa kabila ng matinding panawagan ng iba't ibang bansa para sa tigil putukan. Isa-isahin natin ang mga kaganapan sa sunod-sunod na pag-atake sa pagitan ng Israel at Hezbollah. Patuloy ngayon ang matinding pag-atake at pambobomba ng Israel na nakapagtala na ng 569 na pagkasawi sa Lebanon. Dagdag rito ang nasa 1,835 sugatan mula sa sunod-sunod na mga pag-atake. Matatandaan, ikinagulat ng karamihan ang magkasunod na insidente ng mga pagsabog ng pagers at walkie-talkie sa Lebanon. Bukod pa rito ang pagsabog na naganap naman sa lugar na dinaluhan ng maraming tao para sa burol ng 4 na biktima. Ayon sa Lebanon Health Ministry, nasa 20 katao ang nasawi habang nasa 450 katao naman ang sugatan sa pagsabog ng walkie-talkies noong Miyerkules. Karagdagan lamang ito sa nasa 12 katao na namatay noong Martes, kung saan ay aabot naman sa 3,000 ang naiulat na sugatan mula sa insidente. Sa kabuuan ay umabot na sa 32 katao ang bilang ng mga nasawi sa pagsabog ng mga walkie-talkies, kung saan higit sa 1,000 ang sugatan habang nasa kritikal na kondisyon naman ang iba. Kasunod nito ay nagbigay ng pahayag ang dalawang manufacturer ng mga sumabog na pagers na mula sa Taiwan at Hungary. Iginit nila na wala silang responsibilidad sa mga nangyaring pagsabog ng mga naturang device at hindi lahat ng parte nito ay mula sa Taiwan. Sinabi naman ng kumpanya sa Japan, 10 taon na ang nakalilipas mula nang huli silang gumawa ng mga unit ng mga sumabog na walkie-talkies. Sumabog at gumuho naman ang isang gusali sa Beirut, Lebanon na naging dahilan ng pagkasawi ng 2 mataas na Hezbollah military commanders. Kinumpirma ng grupo ng Hezbollah ang pagkamatay ng senior commander ng Rad 1 Forces na si Ibrahim Akil at ng opisyal ng Top Rad 1 na si Ahmed Wahbi. Batay naman sa ulat na inilabas ng Lebanese Health Ministry ay nasa 31 ang nasawi mula sa pagguho ng gusali, kung saan kasama ang 3 bata at 7 mga kababaihan. Tinamaan naman ang mga pinalipad na missiles ng Israel ang mga distrito ng Sidon, Marjayon, Nabatiyeh, Bint Jibril, Tyre at Zarani. Kasama sa mga napinsalang lugar nito ay ang Zale, Baalbek at distrito ng Hermel sa silangan ng Bekaa Valley. Sinundan ito ng paglikas ng libu-libong mga pamilya sa Lebanon nang inanunsyo ng Israel ang mas malalang pag-atake sa mga infrastruktura na pagmamay-ari ng grupo. Masikip na trapiko naman ang bumungad sa timog ng bahagi ng Beirut dahil sa mataas na bilang ng mga taong nag-uunahang umalis. Bunso dito nang natanggap nilang babala mula sa audio at text messages ng Israel military na nagsasabi na dapat silang umalis sa lugar. Bukod dito ay hinikayat ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ang mga mamamayan ng Lebanon na umalis kung ayaw nilang madamay at masaktan. Anya ay ginagamit ng Hezbollah ang mga tao bilang proteksyon at sadyang itinago ng nasabing grupo ang kanilang mga rockets at missiles sa kanilang mga tirahan. Ayon sa Israel Defense Forces ay nakapagpalipad na sila ng 210 mga missiles patungo sa Lebanon. Tumama naman ito sa rehiyon ng Galilee, Haifa at mga kalapit na lugar ng Carmel, Naamakim, Namifrats at Golan Heights. Bago ang kasalukuyang labanan sa pagitan ng Hezbollah at Israel ay nasa kasaysayan na ang matagal na digmaan at sigalot sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Taong 1982 nang atakihin ng Israel ang Lebanon bilang ganti sa pag-atake ng Palestine Liberation Organization o PLO. Dagdag pa rito ay namalagi rin ang Israel sa timog at kanlurang Beirut na siyang nasasakupan ng PLO na mas nagpatindi sa labanan ng dalawa. Tumatak din noong 1993 ang pag-atake ng Israel sa Lebanon kung saan ay tinawag itong Operation Accountability o 7-Day War. Ganti naman ito sa naging pag-atake ng Hezbollah sa refugee camp at village sa hilagang Israel na nagdulot ng matinding pinsala. 3 taon pang nakalipas at noong 1996 ay nagsagawa ng 17 araw na opensiba ang Israel laban sa puwersa ng Hezbollah sa Litani River. Ang sagupaan sa pagitan ng dalawa ay tinawag na April Aggression ng Lebanon at Operation Grapes of Wrath naman ng Israel, kung saan maraming bilang ng militar at inosenteng mga sibilyan ang nasawi. Pinatay naman noong 2006 ng mga Hezbollah ang 3 sundalo na Israel na kinilalang sina Wasim Nazal, Eyal Benin at Shani Turgeman. Kasunod ito ng paghiling ng mga Hezbollah na palitan ng mga bilanggong Lebanese at ng mga sundalo ng Israel na hindi nadaan sa maayos na negosasyon. Sa kasalukuyan, muling nagkainitan ng dalawa ng suportahan ng Hezbollah sa pamamagitan ng pagpapadala ng missiles ang labanan sa Gaza na nagsimula noong nakaraang taon. Aabot naman sa 1,139 na mga tao sa Israel ang namatay dahil dito kung saan 250 naman ang dinukot ng Hamas. Mula noon hanggang ngayon, hindi na natapos ang matinding labanan at digmaan sa lupain ng Middle East. Matapos ang magkakasunod na pag-atake sa pagitan ng Hezbollah at Israel, ay nagpahayag naman ang iba't ibang mga bansa ng kanilang saloobin. Patunay nito ay kanilang pinag-usapan sa ginanap ng United Nations General Assembly ang pagpapatigil sa hindi matigil na labanan sa Middle East. Nagbabala naman ang UN Secretary General na si Antonio Guterres sa mga pinuno ng bansa sa UN General Assembly kaugnay ng agarang pagpasa sa ceasefire deal dahil sa malalang tensyon na nangyayari sa Lebanon at Israel. Anya ay hindi dapat maging ikalawang Gaza ang Lebanon na nagbigay ng masalimuot na alaala at karanasan dahil sa walang tigil na putukan.
Gaza is a non-stop nightmare that threatens to take the entire region with it. Look no further than Lebanon. We should all be alarmed by the escalation. Lebanon is at the brink. The people of Lebanon, the people of Israel, and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
Our worst fears seems to be unfolding for the time being. We have seen an acceleration over the last week. We heard yesterday about the massive exodus of the population from the south towards Beirut. We also heard that 2 days ago was the deadliest day since the end of the civil war in Lebanon. And I would like to echo here what the Secretary General have said to the member states. Don't make Lebanon a new Gaza.
Sinabi ng Pangulo ng Iran na si Masoud Pezeshkian na inilagay lamang ng Israel ang Lebanon sa isang matinding sitwasyon. Anya ay kapayapaan ang kanilang ninanais at hindi digmaan dahil sakaling sumiklab ang mas malaking digmaan sa Middle East ay hindi ito makabubuti para sa lahat. Kinundena naman ng Pangulo ng Turkiya na si Recep Tayyip Erdogan ang ginawang pag-atake ng Israel sa Lebanon kung saan ay binigyan diin niya ng mga makabagong teknolohiya ay ginagamit sa kasamaan. Kasama rin sa mga kinundena sa ginawa ng Israel na pagpapasabog ng mga communications equipment ay ang Foreign Minister ng China na si Wang Yi. Pahayag niya ay hindi dapat nadadamay sa walang awang pag-atake at pagpapasabog ang mga inosenteng sibilyan. Naniniwala naman si Pangulong Joe Biden na may pag-asa pang hindi mauwi sa digmaan ng labanan ng Hezbollah at Israel. Taliwas ito sa pahayag ng Pentagon kung saan ay nagpadala pa ng karagdagang sundalo ang US sa Middle East bilang bahagi ng mga pangyayari sa Lebanon.
October 7, we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7th attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve.
Ayon sa mga opisyal ng US, malabong maipasa sa kasalukuyan ng ceasefire sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas sa Gaza. Dagdag pa nila ito ay dahil sa hindi mapagkasundo ang palitan ng mga bilanggong Palestinian at mga hostages na hawak ng Hamas. Kasama rin dito ang mainit na labanan at tensyon sa pagitan ng Hezbollah at Israel na siyang nais mapigilan ng iba't ibang mga bansa. Mula sa Gaza ay umabot na sa Lebanon ang mga pag-atake at pagpapasabog na ginagawa ng Israel. Kinalimutan na nga yata ng Israel at Middle East ang salitang kapayapaan dahil sa walang tigil na putukan na nagdudulot naman ng maraming pagkasawi. Sa ilang buwan na lumipas ay marami ng bilang ng mga inosenteng sibilyan ang nadamay at tila nagwawating-wating na ang pag-asa para sa inaasam na ceasefire. Sa huli ay huwag sanang malimutan ng lahat ang halaga ng mga buhay na nasasayang dahil sa walang humpay na hidwaan.
Sa iba pang mga balita, tumama na sa Southern Pacific Coast ng Mexico si Hurricane John, isang major Category 3 storm. Batay sa ulat ng National Hurricane Center ng Estados Unidos, may maximum sustained winds na 195 kilometers per hour ang naturang bagyo. Pinalilikas na ng mga otoridad ang mga residente ng Acapulco at Bahías de Huatulco. Nag-issue na rin ang Red Alert ang National Civil Protection Agency ng Mexico sa posibleng epekto ng bagyo. Kanselado na po ang mga pasok sa mga paaralan, gayon din ang mga biyahe sa mga paliparan sa International Airport ng bansa. Samantala, nawalan ng kuryente ang higit sa 200,000 na kabahayan sa estado ng Guerrero dahil kay Hurricane John matapos nitong patumbahin ang mga poste ng kuryente. Patay naman ang 3 katao sa Guerrero dahil sa mudslide at pagguho ng lupa. Inaasahan din ang matinding pagbaha sa buong bansa dahil sa buhos ng ulan na dulot ng bagyo. Nailigtas na ng mga otoridad ang isang 10 anyos na batang babae sa isang gubat sa Louisiana matapos itong mag-sleepwalk at umalis ng kanyang bahay. Ayon kay Webster Parish Sheriff Jason Parker, kinilala ang batang babae bilang si Peyton Saintigan. Batay sa ulat ni Parker, bandang 10 p.m. nang bigla na lamang nawala ang bata. Nasabihan na lamang ang kanyang tanggapan na halos 1 oras nang nawawala itong si Peyton. Kaagad namang rumisponde ang Louisiana State Police. Tumulong din ang daang-daang volunteers para hanapin ang nawawalang bata. Pero sa tulong ng drone ay nahanap rin sa wakas ang batang babae sa pamamagitan ng thermal imaging. Natagpuan si Peyton 40 milya mula sa kanyang bahay sa Arkansas. Nakita ang batang babae na nakahiga sa lupa at mahimbing ang tulog. Dumating ang mga rescuers sa lugar bandang 11 p.m. Sinuri naman kaagad ng mga first responders at ng Child Protective Services si Peyton. Napag-alamang kagat lamang na mga lamok ang tinamo ng bata at walang alinmang sugat sa kanyang katawan.
Itinanghal ng retail store na Tesco ang isang robot security guard na kayang makadetect ng mga kawatan tulad ng nakikita sa palabas na Doctor Who. Ayon sa Tesco, kilala ang robot sa tawag na PID 360 na inimbento ng kumpanyang Detertech. Kaya ng robot na ma-detect ang presensya ng isang magnanakaw sa tulong ng 360-degree cameras nito. Sa oras na ma-detect na ang isang kahinahinalang tao na pumasok sa kanyang range, ay magpapatunog ito ng Star Wars style na siren at sisigaw sa angry Northern Irish accent. Dito na magbibigay ng alert ang robot sa mga otoridad. Sa kasalukuyan, ginagamit ang naturang robot sa mga construction sites. Batay sa ibang mga ulat, ginagamit din ang PID 360 sa mga at-risk na lugar katulad ng Manchester, Bristol at Newcastle.
At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Muli ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Israel and Hezbollah on the brink of an all-out war as the two trade fire.
Full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible.
China has confirmed that it test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile carrying a dummy warhead in the Pacific Ocean. And Singapore has officially commissioned its 5th and 6th submarines, the Invincible and the Impeccable, significantly bolstering its naval capabilities. The news starts now. Growing concerns of an all-out war on Israel's northern border. Israeli fighter jets have pounded southern Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah militants. Lebanese officials report that hundreds, including dozens of children, have been killed in the last 2 days. Hospitals are overwhelmed and thousands are desperately seeking safety. Hezbollah said its fighters had fired a rocket targeting the Mossad spy agency headquarters near Tel Aviv. And fears are rising that the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel could expand, potentially pulling in Iran, Hezbollah's main backer, and the United States, Israel's closest ally. A wider conflict could be far more devastating than what we've seen so far. Israeli airstrikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs again, killing at least 6, including a top Hezbollah commander. And tens of thousands have fled Israel's intense bombardment of southern Lebanon since Monday. Lebanese health officials say at least 558 people, including 50 children, have died in the attacks. In the northern Israeli town of Kiryat Shimona, which has been under fire from Iran-backed Hezbollah, most rockets and drones have been intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system. But not all. One rocket landed in the heart of a neighborhood, damaging 80 to 90 homes.
We have been facing this enemy, Hezbollah, for almost a year. Unprovoked, Hezbollah started this war, and for the last year we have been acting in self-defense, trying to prevent a wider escalation. And a wider escalation is not something that has to happen. Hezbollah can stop its fire. Hezbollah can move north of the Litani according to all the international agreements.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the Lebanese people today, warning that Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah is leading them toward disaster, and cautioned that anyone hiding rockets in their garage won't have a home left.
תשתחררו מהלפיתה של נסראללה, לטובתכם.
Israeli forces and Hezbollah militants traded fire, leaving civilians on both sides scrambling for shelter. And fears of a broader war between Israel and Hezbollah grow, while both countries' civilians struggle to cope with the dangers. Take a look.
As Israeli forces and Hezbollah militants traded fire on Tuesday, civilians on both sides of the border sought shelter wherever they could. A technical institute in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, was converted into a shelter for those displaced. Rima Ali Shaheen told Reuters her family spent 16 hours on the road under bombardment to get here.
It has caused anxiety for the kids. They're on edge. If they hear a door slammed, they would go crazy. It's a lot of pressure for grown-ups and children. They're exhausted and stressed. They could not sleep. There's no calmness or quiet. We hear news of bombardment here or there. It is very stressful for the kids. They're living through terrible conditions.
An official from the Sidon municipality said the city had opened 14 schools to house around 3,000 displaced people seeking shelter, and that the numbers were climbing. This man told Reuters the situation was like garbage, a war of total destruction. Israel said it struck a Hezbollah-controlled area of Beirut for a second consecutive day after mounting a new wave of airstrikes on targets in Lebanon. Hezbollah said it had fired rockets into northern Israel earlier on Tuesday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday reiterated his position that his country was at war with Hezbollah, not the people of Lebanon. He said the Iranian-backed militant group was endangering the population by secreting weapons in their homes, and his message followed one Monday, calling on civilians to flee the fighting. Lebanese authorities said some 558 people had been killed in airstrikes on Monday, including 50 children and 94 women. At least 1,835 more were wounded, they said, and tens of thousands have fled for safety. A hospital in Tyre is treating some of the injured children. Another in Beirut opened new wards to treat war wounded. South of the border, Israelis are similarly seeking shelter. Dashboard-mounted camera on this car shows motorists pulling over and taking cover as a rocket struck just up the road. A municipal building in the border town of Kiryat Shmona was hit by a Hezbollah rocket on Tuesday. In Nahariya, a beachfront city familiar with air raid sirens, 53-year-old Yehuda Kidron said residents knew the protocols to stay safe.
You have to follow the rules. If there's an alarm, you have to hide, you have to lie down, then maybe go to a safe room. But if you're not on the street, you have to lie down, away from the car. That's the only thing you have to do.
Siblings Yonatan and Mia Shorek live in the Israeli city of Haifa. Mia said the booms were loud and frightening during an evening of air raid sirens and explosions as rocket fire from Lebanon was intercepted in the skies above. The Israel-Lebanon border has simmered with tension in parallel to the war in Gaza, tensions that have raised fears of an all-out war. The Israeli government has made securing the northern border a war priority, setting the stage for a long conflict, while Hezbollah has vowed it will not back down until a ceasefire is reached in Gaza.
President Biden delivered his final address to the UN General Assembly, cautioning that the world is at a critical juncture.
President Biden struck a cautiously optimistic tone in his wide-ranging speech, urging nations to avoid isolationism and cooperate on global challenges.
Many look at the world today and see difficulties and react with despair, but I do not. I won't. As leaders, we don't have the luxury. I recognize the challenges from Ukraine to Gaza to Sudan and beyond. War, hunger, terrorism, brutality, record displacement of people, a climate crisis, democracy at risk, strains within our societies, the promise of artificial intelligence and its significant risk. The list goes on. But maybe because all I've seen and all we have done together over the decades, I have hope. I know there is a way forward.
He emphasized American leadership, calling for an end to the conflicts in Sudan, Ukraine, and the Middle East.
Putin's war has failed and at his core aim. He set out to destroy Ukraine, but Ukraine is still free. He set out to weaken NATO, but NATO is bigger, stronger, and more united than ever before, with 2 new members, Finland and Sweden.
Biden underscored the urgency of implementing the ceasefire deal approved by the UN Secretary Council in June, stressing the need for the immediate release of hostages.
I put forward with Qatar and Egypt a ceasefire and hostage deal. It's been endorsed by the UN Security Council. Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip, ease the suffering in Gaza, and end this war.
The president also addressed pressing issues like climate change, artificial intelligence, and reaffirmed the U.S. commitment to supporting Ukraine in its defense against Russia.
Will we sustain our support to help Ukraine win this war and preserve its freedom, or walk away and let aggression be renewed and a nation be destroyed? I know my answer. We cannot grow weary. We cannot look away, and we will not let up on our support for Ukraine, not until Ukraine wins a just and durable peace.
On a personal note, he reminded world leaders that some things matter more than clinging to power.
This summer, I faced a decision whether to seek a second term as president. It was a difficult decision. Being president has been the honor of my life. There's so much more I want to get done. As much as I love the job, I love my country more. I decided after 50 years of public service, it's time for a new generation of leadership to take my nation forward. My fellow leaders, let us never forget, Some things are more important than staying in power. It's your people.
Julian Bukayan for Net 25 World News.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres took a strong stance criticizing governments who may believe they're above accountability in the face of ongoing global conflicts. He highlighted the wars in Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan during his address at the opening of the UN General Assembly in New York. Anna Cui has the details.
During the opening ceremony of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Secretary General Antonio Guterres denounces a growing number of governments and other groups who he says feel they are entitled to a get-out-of-jail-free card. Guterres cites wars in Ukraine, the Gaza Strip, and Sudan.
The level of impunity in the world is politically indefensible and morally intolerable. Today, a growing number of governments and others feel entitled to get out of jail free card. They can trample international law. They can violate the United Nations Charter. They can turn a blind eye to international human rights conventions or the decisions of international courts. They can thumb their nose at international humanitarian law. They can invade another country, lay waste to whole societies, or utterly disregard the welfare of their own people. And nothing will happen.
With the war between Israel and Palestinian militants Hamas in besieged Gaza running for almost a year now and threatening to also engulf Lebanon, Guterres makes an impassioned plea.
Gaza is a non-stop nightmare that threatens to take the entire region with it. Look no further than Lebanon. We should all be alarmed by the escalation. Lebanon is at the brink. The people of Lebanon, the people of Israel, and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
In February 2022, Russia invaded neighboring Ukraine. And the conflict has recently escalated, with Kyiv rapidly seizing land in a high-risk August 6 incursion into Russia's Kursk region. Russia, on the other hand, ramps up drone and missile attacks. Guterres reminds member states who are really suffering.
Civilians are paying the price in rising death tolls and shattered lives and communities. It is time for a just peace based on the UN Charter, on international law, and on UN resolutions.
On Sudan, Guterres calls out the brutal power struggle between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The conflict erupted into war in mid-April last year, ahead of a planned transition to civilian rule.
In Sudan, a brutal power struggle has unleashed horrific violence, including widespread rape and sexual assaults. A humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding as famine spreads. Yet outside powers continue to interfere with no unified approach to finding peace.
Guterres' speech sums up the state of the world as unsustainable.
I stand before you in this whirlwind, convinced of two overriding truths. First, the state of our world is unsustainable. We can't go on like this. And second, the challenges we face are solvable. But that requires us to make sure the mechanisms of international problem solving actually solve problems.
He says, however, that the challenges faced could be solved. Anna Cui for Net 25 World News.
The race for the White House is getting tighter, with former President Donald Trump showing a slight lead over Vice President Kamala Harris in several key battleground states. Now, but could these early numbers be an indication of what's to come? The latest polls are giving us a clearer picture of where things stand in the Sun Belt region, a crucial part of this election. So how is Trump faring? According to a New York Times Siena College poll, Trump is leading Harris by 5 points in Arizona, 4 points in Georgia, and just 2 points in North Carolina. Could this be a warning sign for the Democrats? Well, these states are pivotal and Biden flipped Arizona and Georgia in 2020. But can the Democrats hold on to them? North Carolina has been out of reach for the party since Obama's 2006 victory. Now, if Trump holds his ground in these Sun Belt states, will it be enough to shift the momentum in his favor? The poll also reveals that many undecided voters are grappling with concerns about Trump's character and behavior. Could this hesitation cost him crucial votes? On the other hand, Harris faces doubts too, particularly about her leadership skills and handling of the economy.
We're going to bring thousands and thousands of businesses and trillions of dollars in wealth back to the good old USA. That's what German car companies to become American car companies. I want them to build their plants here. I want to beat China in electronics production, and we'll be able to do that easily. We have the greatest genius, the greatest minds here, and then we end up building them in different places. A lot of that's really stupid tax policy. So as your president, here is the deal that I will be offering to every major company and manufacturer on earth. I will give you the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burden, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet, but only if you make your product here in America. It all goes away if you don't make your product here.
I'm going to be giving a speech this week that is really to outline my vision for the economy. As you've heard me talk about, I believe in what we can create in terms of opportunity for the American people. I've named it an opportunity economy, which really in short form is about what we can do more to invest in the aspirations, the ambitions, and the dreams of the American people while addressing the challenges that they face, whether it be the high price of groceries or the difficulty in being able to acquire home ownership, because for a number of reasons, including we don't have enough housing supply.
Will these concerns sway voters in the final stretch? So what does this mean for the overall race? If Trump can secure Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, he would only need to win one more critical state, such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, to clinch the presidency. But don't count Harris out just yet. She could still win the White House even if she loses these Sun Belt states. The question now is, how will the next few months shape this incredibly close contest? A man accused of plotting to assassinate Donald Trump was indicted, facing charges that could lead to life in prison. Prosecutors allege 58-year-old Ryan Ruth had been staking out Trump's Florida golf course with a rifle and had planned the attack for months.
The man accused of staking out Donald Trump's Florida golf course with a rifle was indicted on Tuesday on a charge of attempted assassination of a political candidate. If convicted, he could face life in prison. 58-year-old Ryan Ruth so far has been charged with possession of a firearm as a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. He has been ordered to remain in jail to await trial. Prosecutors have in recent days revealed evidence they say pointed toward a plan to kill Trump. They allege that months before the incident, Ruth dropped off a letter to an unidentified person alluding to, quote, an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Prosecutors said Ruth spent a month in South Florida, and cell phone data showed him near the golf course and Trump's Florida residence at Mar-a-Lago, and that he was found with a handwritten list of dates and venues where Trump spoke or was expected to appear, according to court filings.
Take 2 steps to your right!
On September 15th, a U.S. Secret Service agent searching the golf course ahead of Trump opened fire after discovering a gun poking through the fence, causing Ruth to flee, prosecutors said. He was arrested within an hour along a Florida highway. Ruth has not yet entered a plea. His lawyers unsuccessfully sought to have him released on bond.
In other news tonight, Singapore has officially commissioned its 5th and 6th submarines, the Invincible and the Impeccable, significantly bolstering its naval capabilities.
As a maritime nation, Singapore's survival and prosperity depend on free and unimpeded movement over the seas. The RSM plays a critical role in keeping our sea lines open and secure.
And these advanced vessels, acquired from Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems, represent a technological leap forward for the Southeast Asian nation.
Over the years, our submariners gained the experience and expertise to build more robust capabilities. Today, we stand confident not just to procure new-built submarines, but also to customize them to meet our specific operational requirements. The Invincible-class submarines are fitted with advanced technology, allowing for leaner crews and better maneuverability in our congested waters. They are quieter, more durable, and better armed than anything we've had before.
The Invincible-class submarines are equipped with air-independent propulsion, allowing them to operate for longer periods without surfacing. And their quiet operation and advanced technology make them among the most capable submarines in the region. Prime Minister Lawrence Wong emphasized the importance of these submarines in safeguarding Singapore's sea lanes and ensuring its economic prosperity. He also highlighted the vessel's customization to meet Singapore's specific operational needs, including their leaner crews and enhanced maneuverability. The commissioning of these submarines marks a significant milestone for Singapore's Navy and underscores its commitment to maintaining a stronger maritime presence in the Indo-Pacific. A joint naval exercise between Russia and China is underway in the Sea of Okhotsk, a strategic waterway in the Western Pacific. Now, this exercise, the Beibu Interaction 2024, involves the detachment of warships from both countries' Pacific fleets. The Russian and Chinese warships are conducting a range of training activities, including joint maneuvering, counter-drone operations, reconnaissance, and maritime surveillance. The exercise also includes live-fire drills with anti-submarine and anti-aircraft weapons. The Sea of Okhotsk is a significant strategic location bordered by Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula and Japan's Hokkaido Island. The joint naval exercise underscores the growing military cooperation between Russia and China, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. The U.S. government is moving to ban certain technologies made in China and Russia that are currently used in cars. But what exactly are these technologies and why are they now seen as a threat? Now, these imports power features like Bluetooth, internet connectivity, and autonomous driving systems. The software, often used for emergency communication, raises concerns about national security. Washington officials warn that Chinese and Russian-made tech in American vehicles could lead to remote sabotage. With modern vehicles equipped with cameras, microphones, and GPS tracking, how vulnerable are we when it comes to our personal privacy? As one official pointed out, when foreign adversaries build software to make a vehicle, that means it can be used for surveillance and can be remotely controlled, which threatens the privacy and safety of Americans on the road. That is according to Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. She also said in an extreme situation, a foreign adversary could shut down or take control of all their vehicles operating in the United States, all at the same time causing crashes and blocking roads. There are relatively few Chinese-made cars or light-duty trucks imported into the U.S., Raimondo said. The department is acting before suppliers, automakers, and car components linked to China or Russia become commonplace and widespread. We're not going to wait until our roads are filled with cars and the risk is extremely significant, unquote. Now, to address these concerns, the Commerce Department is now proposing new restrictions. What will these restrictions entail? Well, the ban would target vehicles using Chinese and Russian technology, starting with software in 2027 and hardware by 2030. Chinese automakers will also be barred from testing self-driving cars on U.S. roads. But will existing cars with Chinese software be affected? The public has 30 days to comment on the proposal, which is expected to be finalized by January of next year. How will this move impact the ongoing trade tensions? This decision intensifies the U.S. crackdown on Chinese technology, adding to an ongoing trade war that includes tariffs on electric vehicle batteries, minerals, and a ban on semiconductor exports to China. And the news continues here on Net 25 World News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Florida is on high alert as Tropical Storm Helen gains strength, threatening to hit the Gulf Coast with hurricane-force winds and a dangerous storm surge. Take a look. Tropical Storm Helene is gathering strength over the Caribbean waters and is expected to make landfall in the next 48 hours. The Gulf Coast of Florida is bracing for a direct hit, with the storm likely to reach Category 3 status, packing winds exceeding 100 miles per hour and a storm surge potentially up to 15 feet.
Tallahassee, you're under a hurricane warning. All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. I want to make sure that if you're in these areas that you're taking the necessary precaution. How far it extends outside of the cone. You're going to hear that message repeated over and over again because this storm is just that big. So let's start first with the worst. Up here in the Big Bend area in the Nature Coast, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is possible.
Now, this could be the most powerful hurricane to strike the U.S. this year, prompting both Florida's governor and President Biden to declare states of emergency.
Yesterday, I signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency for 41 counties, which allows for state officials to make resources available to communities ahead of any potential storm impacts and to work. Now, the storm has not yet formed. But we anticipate that to form within the next 12 to 24 hours and be a potentially very dangerous storm. The models currently range from it developing into a tropical storm all the way to a major hurricane at Category 4. If you look at the National Hurricane Center, they have put out their cone, and they're actually forecasting it to be a major hurricane by the time it reaches landfall.
Do you want to hear John Cena's iconic voice coming from your Facebook chatbot? Well, Meta is about to make that a reality. Take a look.
His catchphrase may be, "You can't see me, but you may soon hear John Cena as a chatbot."
I officially am not cool. So that's exactly what I found out.
This is what Facebook owner Meta's AI bot might sound like as it plans to announce it has secured a deal with the WWE and movie star, a source told Reuters. Cena, as well as other celebrities like Judi Dench and Kristen Bell, will reportedly give voice to the bot.
Who wants to slow down? No, I want to be employed.
The source said the new audio feature will offer users the option to select a voice for Meta's ChatGPT-like digital assistant from a list of 5 celebrities. Others include actors Awkwafina and Keegan-Michael Key, as well as several generic voices. They added the social media giant is set to announce the audio capabilities at its annual Connect conference, which starts on Wednesday. The celebrity voices will start launching in the US and other English-speaking markets this week, the source said. And they will feature across Meta's family of apps, which include Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. Meta has raced to push out generative AI products to its billions of users. It's competing against Microsoft-backed ChatGPT maker OpenAI and Alphabet's Google to dominate the emerging technology. The company has added capabilities to its chatbot and pushed to make it a more prominent part of the experience of using its apps. OpenAI showed off a similar audio feature for its chatbot in May. But it quickly ran into trouble when actor Scarlett Johansson accused the company of making it sound eerily similar to her, even though she had declined to lend her voice to the project.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
This program